Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. XRP is one of the cryptos that I've talked a lot about over the last 4 years. I believe that this one is nearing a breakout of its long-term downtrend, which is ultimately going to mean that this thing is getting ready for a new cycle. I honestly believe that this is one that most people are underestimating, that is still setting up in a very major way. And so for today's video, we're going to be breaking it down. I'm going to be breaking down where I believe it's headed in the short-term, mid-term, and long-term time frame, so that you guys know exactly how to profit off of this cycle moving forward from here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, now before we jump into the XRP analysis, I wanted to quickly take some time to actually talk about Bitcoin. Now guys, we're only going to see the rest of the market go up as long as Bitcoin continues to go up, and Bitcoin has just recently had a very big breakout. Now, in the shorter time frames, we ended up erasing the entirety of this pump and came all the way back down to where it began. Now we're starting to see a bullish engulfing candle come in here, so if this continues to close bullish, then we could be looking at, another attempt at breaking out of the range highs. But anyways guys, what we're looking at on the bigger picture still, nothing has really changed there. We're still just looking at the next high and really the next resistance, which I believe is 40K. Maybe you could draw it at 37.6, just anywhere in this area right here, in between this zone. When we first started breaking down, leading into the July FTX collapse. Not even FTX, but it was actually Terra Luna throughout this period. So when we're watching this, that's the real resistance that I see next. And if we see Bitcoin making this next leg up right here, you can expect to see altcoins are going to bleed a little bit. They're going to lag. You're going to see Bitcoin pretty much run this entire move without anything happening. And that's kind of to be expected in the early parts of the bull market. Altcoins are oftentimes going to underperform, especially at the beginnings of the breakouts. But what we end up seeing, most of the time anyways, has been as we get up closer towards the true top and the very end of the impulse for Bitcoin, that's where altcoins get a lot of that value kind of trickling back into them, and then we see their cycles go up. So we don't know exactly how it's going to play out. That's how it has been playing out over the last couple years, but we know inside of the market anything can change up. And so when we're looking at this, knowing that Bitcoin's breaking out, we cleared a 200-day range. We're nearing closer and closer towards our main resistance levels up here. That's the point where we're probably going to end up seeing altcoins doing the most damage. So just keep that in mind. Now guys, let's jump into the XRP analysis, break down what I'm thinking over the short-term, mid-term, and long-term time frames. So here we are to cover XRP. Now XRP has always been one of my favorite cryptos, and if it wasn't for the lawsuit in the last cycle, I do believe that this would have made it a lot closer either to those all-time highs or potentially into new all-time highs. Now, there was all of the FUD with the lawsuit. So many people were negative around that, even though when you looked in the details of the lawsuit, it was obvious to tell that there was no real substance backing it. And so for them to win, for them to have that all cleared above their head, that is the most important thing that really could have happened, because now true adoption of XRP can take place. And I do believe that this is one of the most heavily accumulated coins on the market. When I'm looking at this, it reminds me a lot of what we saw in Bitcoin cycle from 2018 all the way over to 2020, and how it kind of consolidated in this long-term triangle type formation before it finally broke out into its new cycle. And XRP kind of reminds me of a similar setup. The only difference is XRP's setup is a much longer accumulation. There has been much more time that has taken place from the high of this move all the way to where we're at today. 2,100 days approximately that we've been inside of this accumulation. And that's what I'm saying when I tell you guys that I believe the next cycle is setting up to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest of all time, is simply because when we're looking at a lot of these cryptos, a lot of them have just had so long to sit here and accumulate. This is a very, very long-term cycle. And that's why I'm thinking when we actually do get these breakouts, for example, XRP is sitting here. It's been trending for the last year, basically. It looks so perfect in every sort of way. What we're looking for in a long-term cycle, XRP is just doing exactly that. We have basically trended forever. It's never once not made a higher high. Even when we're looking at the last cycle, it still had your standard Elliott wave impulse followed by a correction. Perfect ABC correction. We still maintained a higher high from the bottom of the SEC lawsuit. And so for us to have continued to trend sideways throughout this entirety, that in my opinion shows that there's still plenty of accumulation going on. 500 days accumulation. This is uptrend. We've been going up the whole entire way. And I think that as we're getting closer and closer to this long-term descending resistance, this is the point where we're going to end up seeing that breakout, right? It might not happen instantly. We might make a run up here, consolidate below this level for a little bit. We don't know exactly, but assuming Bitcoin makes a big thunderous move all the way up to 48,500, we would assume that XRP would probably end up breaking out of that and then making a move probably at least to $1.40, and it could actually go all the way up to the top of its prior impulse high at $1.95. I'm not underestimating it in any sort of way, and as we begin this new cycle, whatever is going to outperform, whatever is going to get the most adoption right at the beginning, whatever ones are going to just end up leading, as I should say, those are going to be the ones that make a lot of moves that surprise people. And so we don't know for sure how high this is going to go. But what we do know is the higher the Bitcoin goes, if Bitcoin goes all the way up to 48,500, don't be the least bit surprised to see XRP at $1.40 and potentially all the way up to close to $2 as well. So this is what I'm going to be looking at with XRP long term. The second that we can get outside of this long-term descending resistance, that confirms a breakout of an over 2,100 day accumulation structure. And during that entire period, we never once made a lower low, right? When we're looking at the peak low of the bear market, which would have been here during COVID, we've just maintained an uptrend the entire time, right? Even going all the way back to 2020, excluding the last year and a half that we've had of this uptrend recently, we've been uptrending since, the COVID low. So at that point, when we're looking at XRP from a long-term basis, this is a really good setup, showing plenty of buy support. It's done everything that we would have needed to see, at least in the short term, where it's broken out of all descending resistance on the shorter time frames, and that happened over here in October of last year. And we've just been trending sideways ever since. When the news came out that they beat the SEC, we got this pump. We completely erased that pump, and we're now starting the next leg up. And in my opinion, this is going to be the leg up that actually breaks out. So when we're looking at this, anybody that's been holding this long term, understand that now is the opportunity that we've all been looking for all of this time. Anybody that's been holding it as long as we have understands the severity of what it means to actually see this long-term breakout. And so this is really what I'm focused on for the remainder of this year. I think that that's really what we're going to be doing the majority of, is having this breakout, maybe topping sometime at the end of this year. It's hard to say. That would be a pretty accurate time frame in my eyes, considering the fact we began this run at the end of the year last year. So to see us kind of topping over here at the end of the year this year, that would be a confirmed 1 year uptrend right here. And so that in and of itself, in my opinion, would be plenty of time. That's the longest uptrend that we've ever seen to begin a new cycle. And I do think that we would be setting ourselves in for a deeper correction after that. So it's hard to say how XRP factors into all of that. What I'm looking at on the big term, or long term, I guess, is mainly what happens after this breakout. Because once we clear this breakout, I think that if we get outside of this, the bigger the move up, the bigger of the correction on the way back down, especially if we're looking at Bitcoin topping at 48,500. We do some type of distribution phase and then come all the way back down potentially. Maybe, where we just broke out of, held support at 25K, coming back down to anywhere by 31.5 to about 25K, anywhere back within this consolidation, whether it holds it above the high, like right here, and then goes up, or whether it comes all the way back down to that same support level. I won't underestimate anything, considering the fact what we'd be looking at, or at least the way I'm perceiving it right now, this being 1, 2, 3, 4, and this finishing out in a wave 5. So we would expect to see some type of consolidation, some type of correction on the way back down. And what we're looking at is our halving happening April of 2024. So I don't know how all of that is going to factor in, but considering the fact that we began the cycle at the end of the year. I won't be surprised to see us end up topping at the end of the year as well and kind of completing that 1 year uptrend before we have some lengthier period of consolidation. Can't say exactly how that's going to look, but if that happens, XRP is going to have to go through the exact same thing. The big thing that we're going to be looking for in here is the potential of us coming all the way back down and correcting and potentially hitting at the very low end of that support, because that would fake out so many people in the same way that all of these have. But all we would be doing was just completing the next impulse correction before, in my opinion, the really big impulse into new all-time highs would start. And so when we're looking at all of these cycles from the long term, just understand that if we go in for a breakout when Bitcoin goes to 48,500, all of these altcoins make a big massive move, going all the way back up to near where they were breaking out from in the last cycle. Just keep in mind that a correction after, if it comes all the way back down to where we're at today, don't underestimate that, because it can definitely happen. But anything like this for XRP, it's only going to be producing a much bigger impulse later to come. And that's as simple as that. There's nothing more to explain when it comes to this, considering the fact what we're going to expect at the beginning of a cycle is for us to have these first breakouts, these corrections that come all the way back down. Whether this comes all the way to retest the beginning point or the descending resistance of the prior trend, we don't even know for sure. This could end up holding as better support. But if Bitcoin makes a big correction all the way back down to 31,000, if we're looking at this being an entire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, our 618 is 27.7 thousand. So if we were to see a correction all the way back down there from 48,500, that's a decent size move. 42%. So if Bitcoin goes down 42%, I think that XRP would probably do at least that, and it'll probably end up coming back down even more. So when we're looking at this, don't be the least bit surprised to see, even though we make a big breakout of the downtrend, us to come all the way back down and retest that as true support. Because what this reminds me of still to this day, nothing has really changed, has been the long-term trend for XRP has maintained the same trend forever. And a lot of you guys won't ever know this because you weren't around for some of these prior cycles. But when we're looking at this to me just looks exactly the same as its prior cycle did. It's going to be a little bit different based off the price action, but to me it's almost the exact same setup. Where XRP had its first cycle, this was its main cycle top. We corrected all the way back down, made lower highs, kind of contracted inside of this triangle. And then when we finally got a breakout outside of that descending resistance here, we came all the way back down to retest the low point, and we ended up going even lower than where we broke out from. And so that same setup that I'm explaining right here, where we broke out of descending resistance and then came all the way back down to make a lower low before we truly cemented that bottom, do not be surprised if that ends up happening once again inside of this cycle. It'll be a little bit different considering the fact this is a log scale, so our log scale trend is going to look a little different. Notice how we have to break out all the way up here before that's going to be a breakout of this long-term log trend. But when we come back over to this chart, what we're talking about is this long-term descending resistance, right? This is on a normal linear chart, so when we're comparing the two, I'm just using the log to ultimately explain what the two cycles look like. But when we're looking at this, notice how when we finally broke out of that long-term downtrend, we corrected all the way back down to end up retesting that before the next cycle truly began. And in my opinion, what we would be looking at is almost the exact same sort of thing. Now, what I find interesting in this cycle is the fact that we have the cycle top, this lower high here, and then we went sideways throughout this entire time, just trending up basically before that next cycle. If we look at the same exact setup that's playing out long-term in XRP, it's doing the same thing all over again. We have the cycle top, we have the lower high, we have the correction back down, and then we have this same sort of trending that it did right here, leading into that major breakout, going into that cycle. So when we're looking at all of these from a long-term basis, these are almost the exact same setups. And these are the OG altcoins that have been around forever. This was 1,000, 1,200 days approximately from the cycle top to the point of us actually making a new high. And when we're looking at this current cycle, we're looking at about double that, right? We're currently sitting at 2100 days. So in my opinion, nothing has changed over the long term. We still have all of this inclining volume in here. All of that was done during this high there. That same sort of thing happened in the last cycle, taking place over here. And most people just weren't around for back here. This was when I first got into crypto, and I remember everybody talking about how XRP was just the banker's coin. It wasn't worth anything. But when we're looking at all of this stuff on the big picture, we can see that everything's developing in the same ways that it always has. The only difference is the amount of time that it's taken to get the same cycles. So when we're looking at these, when we're comparing them, just understand that XRP is gearing up for a massive breakout. Even if we end up reversing the entirety of the breakout, it's an opportunity to make some short-term profit. You XRP guys that have been holding, you obviously know what you're doing. Just keep holding to your trading plan. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate the community out there. To see it finally starting to make those big moves that we've always talked about forever, it's a blessing, and I'm really looking forward to what this cycle has in store, considering the fact everything we always knew about XRP has been true. They won the lawsuit. All of the FUD and all of the crap that's been holding it down for so long is now up and over with. So looking forward to how this cycle is going to play out, because I do believe that this one's going to see some of the most upside, especially when comparing it to some of the high cap cryptos. So anyways, guys, if you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to join the Discord server and see how I'm investing in the markets, what I'm investing into, different things I'm researching into, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. You guys can actually get access to my private Discord server. From there, that's where I end up posting all of my charts. That's where I post any sort of research and analysis that I do that doesn't get talked about on my socials. So if you guys want to go ahead and join that, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up. With that being said, thank you all so much for the support, and I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.